Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a while since I've done a program with Natural History Society, but it's always been a great experience. And as I told my students, it's a fantastic resource. If you're interested in anything in the natural world, I think it's a great organization to be involved with. So I want to give a shout out to my co-author here, my spouse, Jill Kemp, because a lot of this work with the videos was her doing. So she's been kind of like a collaborator for years now. And I just want to say that even though this picture is real pretty, there are no river chubs in it. Are these are common shiner, but we'll get to that. We'll get to why that is definitely a thing. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the kind of introduction went into my background, ecology, evolution, and environmental science. And at University of Baltimore, I teach in the environmental sustainability program, which, yeah, we still do have that running at University of Baltimore. And I guess for a longer period of time, I've been very interested in urban streams and their potential. The Jones Falls, which you see pictured here, a couple of my students taking some samples on the Jones Falls, is a perfect example of both the problems and the potential of urban streams. But I've been kind of around them my whole life, and I think they're really important. And so my research looks at how urbanization affects things that live in the stream. Certainly fish communities, but also maybe how to mitigate those effects like stormwater regulation, and the effectiveness of that and different, best management practices. Um, but tonight I'm going to focus on native fish communities, which are a big interest of mine. And of that, I'm going to be talking mainly about this species here. This is a picture of river chub. Let's see, I'm looking in the chat here. Um, yeah, so there's some stuff going on in the chat, but I'm just going to keep going here. Um, so this is a picture of a male river chub. This is a river chub that's in breeding colors, kind of a yellowish coloration, and almost looks like he has pretzel salt on his face. Those are called tubercles, and those are a feature of breeding males. Um, and river chub are a small to medium sized minnow. They're not the biggest that we have. That would be the fall fish. And they're certainly not the smallest, somewhere in between. Um, you wouldn't think of it's an incredibly consequential fish if you saw it just by itself. But it's found regionally in sort of larger streams and small rivers, ones with rocky bottoms that have certain kinds of substrate, and we'll see why that is. It was formerly in the minnow family, which was sort of worldwide, the Cyprinidae, but now it's in a different family. That's just taxonomy. It's still the same fish to me, but it's native to Maryland. Almost the entire state, we have some kind of um, river chub, or even there's actually a bluehead chub actually make it in here. It's another species of Nocomis. So this map here is a summary of state survey sites. This is MBSS, Maryland Biological Stream Survey, has been running now since the 1990s, and they've collected fantastic data on fish communities and also invertebrates as well. And it's been tremendously helpful to my research to have that fantastic available. So if you're involved with MBSS, I thank you so much. But what we're looking at here is a map of the region. So here's Baltimore, and we have river chub at three different densities. White are surveys that the state took where there were 20 to 50 chub found, gray were 50 to 100, and black were high densities of 100 or greater. Some of this is due to differences in stream size. Some of it's differences in compatibility or suitability with river chub. But you can see that they're pretty widely distributed, but that also you don't see any of these balloons in and around Baltimore. It's not that they haven't collected data in those areas. It's just that they are not found. And I will talk about some of the reasons why that might be a little later. But you can see that, they're pretty much found in in the Piedmont section of Maryland, where those kinds of stream habitats are common. This is an underwater picture of a river chub nest. It's my all-time favorite picture of a underwater river chub nest. I just kind of like the way that the water surface is there. It looks kind of cool. Also, we have somebody standing in the background to show you this is a truly large nest mound built by a river chub. Some of them are bigger than others. This one was a really, really big one. But each one of those stones was placed there by the river chub. What's the point of these nests? Well, in moving the stones around, each stone gets cleaned. So this is mostly clean substrate that this mound is built of. Also, it's kind of perpendicular to the flow. And so what you get is a high rate of water coming through the nest. It's good egg development habitat because it's bringing it. You have those clean stones, right? So there's not a lot of silt to gunk up the eggs. Also, it's bringing in oxygen and it's taking away waste product, all that water that's flowing through it. So it's a really good egg development habitat for river chub, which they do. But it is also kind of over the top, and certainly I haven't seen a lot of studies on this, but made to impress female chubs to nesting. Yeah. Now, how do they build these things? Stone by stone with their mouth. So river chubs have not the largest gape size to their mouth, but there we see the male builder chub bringing stones. He's swimming away, looking for sources of stones. Hopefully you guys can see this video. Can give me a thumbs up if you can see. Okay, good. Um, but every one of those stones in the last picture was brought by a male chub to this. And so as a new nest, you can see that these stones are pretty clean compared to the substrate around. Oh, he's already attracted a female chub there. That's what we see. You also see on the back of the male chub, you'll see that there's some like damage. Um, there apparently this is a very energetically demanding time for them. Um, male chubs only live up to about 3 years generally. They can live longer, but it's very rare. And so they're not exactly like salmon, but a male chub might only get 1 or 2 rounds of spawning bouts, 2 years where it can spawn. So there's a lot of effort involved in building these. Sometimes you see diseased individuals at this time. It's been reported in the literature. I haven't seen as many as been reported in the literature, but um, yeah, it's as you can suspect, it's kind of very demanding energetically. And here we see a river chub mating aggregation. So we see the male chub that apparently has built the nest in the front there of the nest. And periodically he either swims back to the females, which are also kind of yellowish. There's another species in there called common shiner that are darker, but that was just a mate right there. Mating is very quick. Um, Mating or spawning, it's really kind of the same thing that's happening there. But what you'll see is the male kind of sidle up or the female sidle up to each other, and they just kind of like uh, twist to the side a little bit, and that's where eggs are released by the female, and then sperm is released by the male. And then the eggs just kind of like fall into the nooks and crannies of the nest. So one of the best places to do this is in the front, um, in the direction of the flow. And you can see it if you look at the bubbles on top, um, because it's got sort of the biggest fetch for the eggs to land in nooks and crannies and things like that. I have to say, we were doing this research for a couple years before we saw a aggregation that was just river chub. It's been reported that they're very short in nature, in terms of duration. They can be inconspicuous, and certainly we found that to be the case in terms of mating aggregations. Honestly, could watch these videos all day. But one of the most interesting things about river chub is their mutualistic relationship with other species of fish. And when I say that in a mutualistic relationship, it's beneficial for all the species in the mutualism to be together rather than them competing in some way or parasitizing or, depredating each other. So like, or predating each other. I don't know what the word is to use for that. But anyway, eating each other. How about that? That's better. But with river chub in that mutualism, they share those big nesting mounds with other species. And when I say share, they don't actively drive them away. Sometimes they get a little testy. There's a little bit of jostling and things, but basically you see large aggregations of other species. In this picture here, we see common shiner, which are the larger species, and we see rosy face shiner. And these are the two of the more common, what we call nest associates of the river chub. So the question arises, what actually causes that mutual benefit? Well, it's been determined that it's where you see river chub, these other species do better, just numerically. So it's been shown that there's an association that kind of holds together between these species. But another thing has to do with egg predation. And what I'm going to show you in this video, there's a northern hogsucker, which is a type of sucker related to white sucker, is going to come up and start eating some eggs on this river chub nest. And you'll see, I don't know, a female gets involved, and then a male river chub comes and escorts the hogsucker off the nest. And it's not as violent as you might think because they're very delicate and they can injure themselves really easily. So here we go. So you can see the northern hogsucker is very well adapted to this with that sort of like almost protuberant mouth that it has, the sucker mouth. There's the male chub, kind of driving them off the nest. So that's protection of eggs. So obviously all species that are on there benefit from that. We've seen all species do nest defense. We've seen common shiner do it. We've seen even rosy face shiner do it to other things like black-nosed dace that might come up and eat the eggs. But the other thing, and probably the major benefit to all these species, is what we call predator saturation. So what that is if your eggs are laid in this nest as a river chub, and there's all these other species who have done that as well, something comes up and eats some of your eggs, then there's less of a chance that it actually ate your eggs. So that's the predator saturation that we're talking about there. And that's probably the main reason for the mutualism. Okay. So this is a full-blown nesting aggregation with, I like this one because it has a lot of species in it. You can see the chub, both male and female. They're the yellowish ones near the front of the nest. That's probably the builder chub, the main builder chub. Although there are sometimes associate males, not all the time, but there are sometimes associate males that assist in the building of the nest. The benefit to them is not known. Maybe they're sneaker males or something like that that sneak in matings or something. But in addition to that's a female chub with the stripe. Also in the front here, we see common shiner. They're usually jostling in the very front of the nest in the same place where river chub might spawn. And then further back, we see populations of rosy face shiner. And then this species here with the black stripe is rosy side dace, Clinostomus. And actually, they're not really common. At our sites, at least, we've only seen them several times, which is one reason that I like this video. But they also aggregate on the nests, as you can see. There's another peripheral species, which I don't have video of on this talk, called satin fin shiner or cyprinella. And sometimes they come in the back and they sometimes use old, disused river chub nests. Our research is part looking at these nests and monitoring them over time, and looking at the relationship to things like flooding, and also urbanization. But also we have behavioral analyses going on. And again, that's primarily Jill that's doing that stuff. So we'll get into that hopefully if we have time a little bit later. Lots of matings or lots of behaviors occur on the nest that are really quite interesting. I'm going to show you an example that has mainly what you'll see here are common shiners jostling for that sort of top pole position, let's call it, in the nest. That's very beneficial. One thing that they do is called a parallel swim, where they'll kind of line up next to each other and sort of hover around, and sometimes they take off and then they'll come back to the nest. And that's sort of just like they're sizing each other up, kind of. It's a it's an agonistic encounter for sure, and an agonistic behavior. Um, and also at the very end, watch for a mating of one of the common shiner. It happens in a split second. Male and female. The females are drab colored. They don't have the reds on them like the males do. But let's just take a look at this clip here. So you'll see that parallel swim. Lining up again. A little bit of contact there. Some nip. Watch for the mating. There it is. Do you see it? So, um, so here's another point. A lot of this stuff happens so fast that our cameras don't pick it up. And we have them running now at camera rates of 60 frames per second. This is an older one, so it's probably about 30 frames. But there's things that we don't see that happen on that kind of time scale. These things just live on a much different kind of a time scale than we do. So I have this graph here just to illustrate that sometimes these mutualisms can be a little bit complicated. And what I mean by that is the benefit to any one particular species can be dependent on the circumstance of the nest. So what I have here, Sam Silknetter is another great freshwater biologist, did an experiment where he varied the abundances of um, of nest associates on river chub nest, and then he took the whole nest and counted all the eggs that were on there and determined what kind of eggs they were using DNA. So tremendously, I don't know, difficult experiment to do, but he did that, and he had ones where there were no nest associates. He had ones where densities were low and others where densities were high. Well, kind of like what you would expect is probably like at the real high densities, it becomes a problem because they're interfering with the mating. But that wasn't the case. In fact, the absolute worst one was where you had low densities. So at low densities, whatever it exactly is that provides the benefit that allows river chub eggs to survive was sort of overridden by other factors. And so it was actually the worst kind of survivorship here on the y-axis, egg abundance, was found at lower densities. And I don't mean to I just wanted to show that sometimes these things are complicated and context dependent, but the net effect of having these species there overall is a plus and a benefit. So it remains a mutualism. There are other species um, that build pebble mound nests. This is not a river chub nest. This is a nest of a cutlips minnow. But cutlip minnows vigorously defend these nests, and they really don't share with other species. And there might be some occasions where other species sneak in a mate, but it's really not a lot. So, um, take a look at the cutlips minnow. It has a much smaller mouth. So if you find pebble mound nests that seem smaller and are built with like pea-sized gravel rather than bigger rocks, then it might be a cutlips minnow. I do believe that's another cutlips minnow that we just saw there. But I'll play it again here. While I tell you that they are called cutlips minnows because they have this little protrusion on their lower jaw. And if you put it in an aquarium with other fish, this is documented in the literature, it will literally pick their eyes out with that little protrusion. And so one of the names for it is the eye picker. So I guess fish don't want to mess with this fish. So anyway, fall fish are another example of another species that builds huge pebble mound nests, even bigger than river chub. But they don't share either, and they get really big. Check out the chat here. So, like, if you guys have questions you want to ask me, I see I missed some of these. Just like raise your hand. I'd be happy to
But
answer them.
that's okay. We can keep those till the end, and then we can do a
Okay.
Q&A.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you may be asking yourself question, I mean, obviously they're impressive, but why have you been studying river chub for so long? Well, one of the first things I realized in my research, and other people have confirmed this in their research as well, is that river chub are a group of species, are in a group of species of fish that are largely absent from urban streams. So I have pictured on this slide the top 5 missing or reduced fish from Baltimore streams. This was published in 2014, so this is like a very old slide. Um, but you can see, first of all, there's river chub. There's common shiner here, okay? In this picture here, there's the predators of the eggs, the northern hogsucker, and we have cutlips minnow, which is another pebble mound nester. So there's something about urban streams that is impeding these species. We call them lithophilic spawners, but they depend on clean substrate to nest. This is a neat little catfish called a mad tom, which I don't know doesn't is not connected in any way that I know of to these other species of fish in a big way. But anyway, 4 out of the 5 definitely are. So river chub were a really interesting species. They are found near the urban environment. They almost certainly were here in Baltimore, um, but I have almost no information. Okay, and I want to give a shout out to Charlie Davis and Natural History Society of Maryland for giving me this little report. This bulletin is literally the only historical information that I found. And somebody might be out there, and saying, "Oh, I've got some stuff." Well, if you do, let me know, okay? Because I looked for a long time for it, but Charlie really came through for me, and gave me this report, which was this guy Frank Yingling, not a scientist, a naturalist who was interested in fish and observing fish, and observed fish fauna in the Gwynns Falls from 1923 to 1940. And although there was maybe some misidentifications going on there, like with river chub, unfortunately, it suggests a 20th century impact, as some of the species, he said, were declining at that time, and some of the species we no longer see. So we do think that they were in those streams at one time, in the Gwynns Falls, the Jones Falls. They're just not there now. We just don't know for sure. Okay, so what is it that makes them vulnerable? Do that. Well, one of the things that river chub do is they place their nests in pretty high velocities. And that makes when you have a high flow event that, from a rainstorm or something like that, they become vulnerable to the high flow. So what you're looking at here is a number of nests where of river chub nests that we monitored, and we took water velocity readings at those nests. And you could see that there's a nice, beautiful normal curve here, with maybe a tail towards the end there, but otherwise it's pretty good. And we have a lot of nests centered around this velocity of zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.4 meters per second. That is a pretty fast moving current. And so, they're not placing them in the slow velocity, you're not placing them as much in the high velocity, in the really high velocity, but that's pretty fast. So you can imagine what high flows do. And certainly in urbanized systems, we have those high flows. This is a picture of the Jones Falls after Tropical Storm Lee, which, admittedly dumped a ton of rain. But you could see what's happened here is the Jones Falls is lapping at the bottom of the bridge. There's normally a stream valley here with vegetation. You can see a little bit of it sticking out. But in urban areas, you have impervious surface. You have roads, you have roofs, you have sidewalks, and all the rain just basically runs off and it's directly connected via the stormwater system to the streams. And so you get these what we call flashy streams that just rise up really fast and really powerful. And of course, imagine you had a river chub nest in the stream. It'd be gone, completely gone. So these kind of disruptions are really bad for that kind of spawning fish. Uh, Now, in my research, we were able to determine what we call nest destruction thresholds. Um, so basically, we monitored nests over time. On occasion, like in between the weeks we would monitor them, the nests would be all gone. And then we'd look back and see the heaviest rainfall system that we had in between our monitoring systems. And over the years, we were able to develop a sort of guideline to when you get partial nest destruction and when you get complete nest destruction. So if you see on the left here, we have a happy river chub, and it's at what we call base flow, and that's like the average flow without any rainfall or any flooding or anything like that. It varies over time, but not a whole lot. So at base flow, we're able to calculate that as a long-term median of flows. We determined that at 6.9 or roughly 7 times base flow, you get destruction of some of the more vulnerable nests. So at least some of the nests are impacted. And when you get base flows that are higher than 8.3 times base flow, or when you get, sorry, storm flows that are 8.3 times base flow, it almost invariably results in destruction of all of the nests. So we say that's their CD90 threshold or our complete destruction threshold. And imagine when you get a nest destroyed like that, all the eggs are goners. So the river chub, everybody else that's in there, the eggs are all in one basket, so to speak, and they're gone. So they can spawn again, they can rebuild the nest again, but if this happens repeatedly, like it does in urban systems, it could be a longer term problem. This graph is from one of my publications. It was actually in this previous slide, 2017, if you're looking for it. But what this shows you is the number of complete destruction events over years on the x-axis for several streams, 3 urbanized that are in italics here, and then 3 that are not urbanized. The number of complete destruction events for each one of those streams over time. And you see 2 distinct clusters here. Well, this cluster is 3 streams that I work in with River Chub, Big Elk Creek, Winter's Run, and Little Gunpowder Falls. And you can see the complete destruction events for the flow data that we have for them is in an average maybe 4 to 5. Okay. But if you look at the urban streams, which do not have river chub, by the way, we're looking at around 10 on average. And so I don't know how many nest destructions it takes to eliminate river chub reproduction and its nest associates, but there has to be some level at which reproduction is just completely lost in a year. And if that happens maybe 3 years in a row for river chub, that population may go extinct, or it's on its way to, well, extirpation. Um, and so, you know, it's there's a lot of things that happen in urban streams that are not good for the health of fish, but this is something that supports high flows as a reason for loss of river chub in those urbanized areas. I went a little further with that in a subsequent paper where I asked the question of, well, given that in this region in Maryland, we're expecting more rainfall overall and more heavy rainfall due to climate change. That's what the climate models are suggesting. If we went forward to the year 2060, you know, what's our weather look like? So there's actually some cool ways that you can do that. You can simulate weather under these scenarios, yeah, in the future. Um, but what the question was, is there a greater disruption to river chub nesting, given what we know about those destruction thresholds? Um, and what you're looking at here is one graph. I really don't have time to go into the whole thing. I hope this isn't too crazy, but we have observed data here, and we have two climate change scenarios. Okay, RCP 45. Just in brief, this is supposed to be the better scenario: less emissions, more cooperation, more clean energy. RCP 85 is like the worst case scenario, where it's like, kind of like we're not cooperating and we're not doing any clean energy and that kind of stuff. But on this graph, we have the number of disrupted days during the nesting season of the river chub through those complete nest destructions. And you can see, yes, there's significantly less in the observed data versus either of these. But one thing that was a surprise is there wasn't much difference between these two different scenarios, these climate change scenarios, which was a surprise to me. I thought the lesser one would, you'd see like a gradient, but um, it turns out that there is greater disruption of nesting activity for river chub, given what climate change models are predicting. Is that enough to eliminate um, climate change, or is climate change enough to just eliminate species of river chub with that extra rainfall? Maybe not. Maybe it's not a chub apocalypse. Okay. Um, but it certainly is not good. And given the fact that this region is almost certainly going to grow, the urbanization is going to grow, those two things are certainly going to interact and cause some problems down the road for river chub. So in urban streams, we see that the river chub and associates, I stuck in cutlips minnow, but in any surveys, I have not seen any evidence of river chub, rosy face shiner, or rosy side dace within Baltimore streams. And like I said, they were almost certainly there at one time. Common shiners are very reduced. They're found in the Gwynns Falls, but there's nowhere near as much as there used to be. And it's interesting, if you go back and look at the really, really old fisheries reports done by people like Cope and Pruitt, the old, like the 1800s, early 1900s, common shiner used to be the most abundant species in our urban streams. And that's why they're called common shiner, but they're not common anymore. It's just been this long-term change of fish communities. So I have a bit of a conclusion, then I have a couple extra slides if we have time. Um, river chub, I hope you can see they fill an important role. They're a keystone species because they provide nesting habitat for other species, and there's a mutualism there. There's a mutualistic relationship between those species. And if you lose, I guess I really wanted to say, if you're losing these other species as well as they're going by, they're going bye-bye as a unit. What are these other species connected to? I mean, this mutualism that we have with river chub and its nest associates is it's very obvious, and it's kind of easy for us to study. Not that a lot of people have studied it because they haven't, okay? But compared to that, there's probably so many other interconnections, mutualisms between species that are not readily obvious, but are important. And so, what are common shiners connected to? Or rosy face shiner, or rosy side dace? A lot of that stuff is probably out there, but just not known. So anyway, unfortunately, river chub have disappeared from urbanized watersheds. They're vulnerable to high flows in streams. That's probably one reason why they're gone from our urban streams. Um, I'm worried about the effects that urbanization and climate change will have. Hopefully, we can plan for the future. Hopefully, we can plan for stormwater mitigation that reduces the amount of input into these streams and build for the future, not build for the past. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm afraid a lot of that is not being done, but we have that opportunity right now to build for the future. And also, I just want to point out that what's good for those, uh, you know, obviously you're in a natural history society meeting, so you care about biodiversity, but not everybody does. But the fact of the matter is that what's good for them is what's good for us. And so if we give them clean streams and a good place to live, that benefits us as well. We have cleaner water, it's healthier, it's maybe recreationally available. It's, in the case of the Jones Falls, it's going to lead to a cleaner inner harbor, and that's like an economic center of Baltimore. So there's all of these connections between us and these fish, and they benefit us as well through those ecosystem services. What time is it right now? Do I have time to do like two quick slides? No?
You have time. You have
Real
time. Go
quick.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been doing behavioral studies on common shiner. Actually, it's mainly Jill has been doing this, just watching ungodly amounts of fish videos and doing focals on individuals. Um, and one of the things that we were interested in is what kind of behaviors lead to successful mating in common shiner. And the interesting thing is they are identifiable as individuals by these lateral markings. Can you see that? It may not be that there's no other common shiners like that in the world, but in the context of this nest, it's pretty good at determining who an individual is. So you can track one of these individuals frame by frame, see what it does, look at its behaviors, and then, does it mate or not? Well, the list of behaviors that apparently contribute to successful mating in male common shiners for an individual is the more an individual moves rocks, and they do it in a different way, and they make a different sound when they do it, right? They kind of go nose down and they dig in the rocks, uh, make unsuccessful mating attempts located in the front nest pit, and fights less, the greater the chance that a male will mate. I want to show you this video real quick. Oh, that's weird. Hold on a second, folks. Oh boy. Oh, man. Sorry, folks. Okay, there we go. So this is a nesting aggregation, and I want to talk too much. I want you guys to listen. Do you hear what's going on? Do you hear those rock crunching noises? Hear that?
I don't know if we can hear that. We're not hearing the audio.
Oh, darn it. Okay. Well, it's a very pretty video, but I can hear it. There's a lot of like rock crunching going on. Okay. So obviously, in terms of attracting mates, there's going to be these visual cues. You have these colors and things, right, of these species. There might be chemical cues, but there can also be sound cues. So by moving rocks being near the top of the list, here, I'm going to stop this since you guys can't hear it. I'm sorry about that. Um, where are we? So move rocks is at the top of the list for being a factor for successful mating. And that makes sounds. And so there's the possibility, and this is something I'm going to look into, is looking at the potential importance of sound in terms of this. This is a sonogram of one of those rock moving sounds. This is the majority of the sound here. So we have frequency on the y-axis, and we have, this is a very short time here. So uh, did you hear that? All right, never mind. But anyway, this sound is over the range of frequencies that fish can hear. So it's kind of an exciting new frontier about conservation is soundscapes. And this is becoming a big issue. There's been people that have been studying soundscapes in various environments. And a lot of times, anthropogenic sounds really carry well. Like if you're near a road or there's a railroad trestle nearby or there's boat traffic, those sounds can interfere with the what they call biogenic sounds. This is something that we've just sort of presented at a conference, and well, we have a manuscript in review. Hopefully, that gets published soon. But yeah, it might be the case. I don't know. We're interested in looking at is if whether sound might be important for as an attractant, maybe sort of a proximal attractant uh, to um, to things coming to nesting aggregations. Okay, thanks to all these people and many others. Um, yeah, I guess I if I've got time for questions, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Yeah, that was wonderful, Stan. Thank you so much. You can unshare, come back. I'll stick a spotlight on you, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. That was I have a whole bunch of questions, but I'll let other people go first. Let's see. All right. If you have a
Oh,
question, you can raise your hand. I'll call on you. Roger, go ahead.
Is there any way we could contact you, like an email or something?
absolutely. Email easy to find. You can just Google Stan Kemp, University of Baltimore. But my it's just SKEMP at UBALT, so ubalt.edu.
Okay.
You want to put that in the chat box, Stan? That would
Yep,
be great.
that is the good idea.
Do
All
you
right.
work with MBSS?
Sorry?
Do you work with MBSS?
I've gotten lots of data from them.
Mhm.
I know people that have worked with MBSS and they're sort of friends and colleagues of mine, but I've never really worked with them directly other than using their data. And
Okay, gotcha.
it's fantastic data. I mean, it's really compared to, surrounding states, the availability and the quality of the data are really, really excellent.
Do you know how I could get on a survey?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Email me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. My guess would be that, it's through DNR or something like that. I know they have a division, but yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of these data are collected via electrofishing. So,
Right.
they have like big electrofishing crews, multiple electrofishers that and if you're not familiar with electrofishing, you're passing a current through the water and it momentarily stuns the fish but doesn't kill them. They just kind of like, sometimes you see their, their lighter counter shaded sides come up, and you scoop them up with a net real quick before they swim away and get out of there.
Right.
So
Uh,
yeah.
Dan, thanks, Roger. Jay asks, Popper at University of Maryland has been studying sound pollution in fish for years. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh, okay. Um, I
You don't
will.
know him? He's
I
a, we,
I am brand new to this field. It's as of this year. It was like kind of we made the realization and we are like, wow, if moving rocks is important, maybe these sounds are important. So I'm kind of new. I know there's a guy named Roundtree that's one of the heads of the field. And there's some other people that have had good papers, but I will definitely check that out. I'm writing it down right now.
yeah, his group was. They were mostly doing like putting pilings into for marine foundations and
Yes,
things like that, and how the fish responded in the area. So
that's
they
cool. Honestly, a
and
lot
yeah,
of
he had
go
a
ahead.
long career with lots of students.
A lot
I
of
used to
research has been done in marine environments.
yeah.
So just like many other things, the marine fisheries people are way ahead of freshwater fish. But there's possibly some very interesting things to study on the freshwater side as well.
Well, they usually were AFS, but I mean, one year I think it was 2012, it was Madison. They had a whole symposium planned at the International Congress on the Biology of Fish, but evidently enough people didn't sign up, so they all pulled out. There was supposed to be a
Yeah,
whole conference on sound in the aquatic environment, but it got canceled.
well, that's too bad.
Are you a part of NANFO?
So that's a Native Fish Society. I've used their website. I'm not I think I think my wife may have subscribed to Freshwater Illustrated. I think they're associated with that. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
FWI is like Derek Wheaton or something.
Yeah, they do great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question while y'all are thinking about other questions. The filming was amazing. How do you find your sites that you're going to put your cameras down? And kind of adjacent to that, do the chubs go back to the same sites? Do they tend to use the same sites year after year to build the nest, or is that's a good spot? I know that there's going to be some chub action there if there are chubs because A, B, C, and D are there.
So yeah, those are really good questions. The way that I first found my streams, I wanted two things. I wanted a healthy river chub population in that stream at that point, and I also wanted a USGS flow gauge nearby. So USGS helped out, and a big shout out to them. Helped me identify where these places were, where I could pull off and do work and that kind of stuff. Um, and then um, and then NBSS data helped me find out where there were nice river chub populations. So, but once we got in the stream, it's just a matter of waiting in the stream and, getting a nice clear day with clear water and finding those nests. Other questions about like, do they use the same sites every year? We found that they adjust to the dynamism of streams. So they like sort of fast riffles, but not very fast riffles. They like pull tail outs. But in streams, those things are dynamic and they change all the time. So like especially with some of the major flooding that we've had over the 10 years, it's those streams have changed tremendously. But there are still a few spots where like, yep, I don't know what it is about that spot, but we can always find at least one nest there. And oh, I wanted to tell you guys, I saw in the abstract, I didn't put anything in about it, but the great thing about underwater cameras is that they're super cheap now, and they're making really good ones that are affordable. Like one of the main ones that I use is a GoPro 10 with just like a cheap little like, bendy tripod. And the GoPro 10 is fully waterproof and it takes fantastic video, really top notch. And so this is like something that is opened up to everybody. And so, it used to be like, that's the wilderness, that's for the scientists that have the, $20,000 video camera. But now everybody can do it. as long as you have an underwater camera, you basically, and it's a little bit tricky, trying to figure out where to put them so they don't scare the fish that much, and you still get a good view. Also, you can't really see what's going on, but I guess I have years of experience of adjusting the camera, but like, we'll use rocks to like, buttress the tripods, and that's worked for us for years. You don't need anything super fancy. But yeah, the GoPros have gotten real. They've always been good, but these last couple generations, like that last video I showed you, it's just, I don't know, it's spectacular. And super wide angle helps a lot, which a lot of those have. So like it's like fisheye. So like you can see a much wider field of view. But I think I hope Freshwater Illustrated is kind of like popularizing this, but it's something that's available to people now, just like binoculars for bird watching, you know.
Awesome. Do you, I have another question on that same thing is, after a nest has been destroyed, will the chub come back and rebuild? Have y'all noticed that they will come back and rebuild? How often does that happen in a one season period? And also on that, do you think that with the frequency of flooding events as it increases, will the chubs either not work faster, but the females go in like in a smaller? Will the mounds reduce in size to facilitate more mating in a quicker period of time?
Those are good questions. Those are excellent questions. I would suspect, based on the fact that, a nest will get obliterated and then I'll come back the next week and there's one in the exact same spot, that yes, they are rebuilding. We do have some anecdotal evidence for that occurring, because river chub males can also be sort of individually identified by the tubercle patterns on their face. So, yes, they will rebuild. How many times will they rebuild? I'm not sure. I know the answer to that question. It's something I wondered. How many times do females also, deposit eggs? Is it just, that's not a known quantity. That's something we do not know, but it's important. Um, and so, how many, and this relates to the question, how many disruptions would lead to reproductive failure? And so we don't really know the answer to those questions. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've worked with fish for a long time. I did my master's on fish back in the 90s, but I wasn't really aware until, you know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, just how little we know about our native fish and how understudied they are. And when I finally figured that out, I, you know, I was like, I got something to do for the rest of my career. More than that.
All right, Jocelyn Pope has their hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say about the extinct part. Yeah, that's like a repeat of like the prehistoric time. Like about like we're talking about fish, right?
Yeah.
So
So by extinct, I mean just like there's no populations in Baltimore, but that's a good question, right? So, um, and it's really maybe not the best word. The best word that I should have used probably is extirpated. So they still exist in other places around. So it's not like, the dinosaurs, which are completely gone, unfortunately.
I know, but yeah, about like the extinct and fish. Yeah, let's talk about the dinosaurs, but it's like the fish's ancestor. So it's like there's like the Mosasaurus. We don't I don't know which ancestor this came from, but I can guarantee it's from some kind of saltwater gigantic creature. And I think I already know what this is. It's the Spinosaurus though, but the ancestor has to be something amphibious though. So yeah, the Mosasaurus is extinct, but
Oh yeah,
we all
extinct,
know
extinct.
that today's animals are related to the dinosaurs, just like the Spinosaurus and this. Plus, we already get the feeling out of the the tail, so it's something that's big. The tail's big, so it might be like a crocodile or something, but it might be a crocodile or like an alligator because the teeth, I think, belong to a crocodile or an alligator. But all I can tell is that this part is definitely not on one of the animals today. But yeah, I think I just don't know which ancestors these are, but all I know is that it's something that's mouth opens like this wide and this wide too. So
So,
yeah.
so you really know your dinosaurs well. Do you like
They,
dinosaurs?
Well, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
got these
Okay.
for my birthday. I'm 9 now.
Nice. Nice. I like dinosaurs a whole lot too. So, like, in terms of evolution, man, the dinosaurs lived a long time ago, I'm sorry to say. But there were ancestors of fish out there too.
Yep.
And yeah, so there were bony fish that were kind of similar to some of the fish that we have today, but they're not the same species, and we call those extinct species as well. And certainly, evolution's just a big, beautiful tree. And
That's
so,
exactly what
yeah.
my plan was. So the reason I don't know the Mosasaurus the ancestor we have today is because of the teeth that are in here. Yeah, but people don't even know how dinosaurs sounded like. And Back to the Future is pretty much a lie because you can't really build a time machine though, because you'd like to
Mhm.
dig out some like ancestral ambulance core and like just smack it on that time machine and bam, you're
oh,
in the dinosaur time, and then you just set up some cameras hidden around, but hopefully a dinosaur doesn't step on it. And boy,
Okay.
do you not want the mosasaurus to get you because it has a big bite.
I'll watch out for
okay.
those mosasaurs. Thank you
Whew,
very much
thank
for your
you
question.
Yep.
I've
so
By
got
the
some
much.
other
way,
questions coming up. So,
Yeah. All right, we have another question. We had also Jay had his hand up. Also, I don't know if you still had a
yeah,
question, Jay.
Jay
And
Jay Nelson
yeah,
also.
did you have a question, Jay? I don't know if he's still on here or not. Alan, go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so perfect timing for my question, Stanley. I'm trying to find out your evolution, how you got into this. When do you remember when this was really something that you wanted to do?
So yeah, that's a really nice question. I first became I mean, I've been interested in urban streams and streams my whole life. When I was a kid, I liked to go fishing a lot, and I just thought it was fascinating, all the different kinds that you would catch. And so I would catch common shiners on these little tiny hooks, and I put a little piece of bread on there, and I'd catch common shiners and yellow shiners. Um, and then I sort of forgot maybe that was so cool and maybe something I wanted to work on and know more about. I till I was in college, and I had professors that taught things about fish, and I started off being an engineer, an electrical engineer. I knew I wasn't going anywhere with that because I don't know, I just wasn't that into it. And then I started taking some electives. One was an ecology course, and that guy brought me actually offered to his students to bring them in and do undergraduate research with him. So, and that sort of sparked, was like, oh yeah, I love this stuff. It's really interesting. I started doing much better in school when I switched majors to environmental science. And also, he gave me some really good research opportunities as well, um, that allow me to really just say, wow, this is what I want to do for sure. So I think really good internships, really good like sort of work studies and things like that, where you can get directly involved in things that you think you might be interested, are good to really show, if that's the kind of stuff you want to do. But like honestly, this fish are something I came back to. I worked on my master's thesis with fish back in the early 90s. And I also worked with fish in my PhD, but um, you know, both of those things just really sort of, you know, reinforced each other. And when I came to Baltimore, I had this beautiful urban stream next to me. I just started poking around in it, and I was like, this is a great issue, a great problem. And it wound up being a lot more complicated than I thought it would be, but still kind of working on that same research track, today. Um, but did I answer your question?
No, that's great. And to
Okay.
a person, you got to thank Bronwyn, because every person that has spoken on these Thursdays is just the passion just comes through every time, and it makes it so interesting. So you've done the same tonight. Thank you.
I got to start coming to these. I got to sign up and become a member again. So,
I have one last question, if nobody else does. Do you do any river snorkeling? Do you do any going in with a snorkel and observing that way?
so yeah, I mean that's become a big thing now. And it's becoming very popular. I think it's a great way for people to see what's in these streams and see that it's amazing, see that, these things are worth preserving and worth protecting. And I think it's a great thing. So the last time I did stream circling was a number of years ago in a trout stream, and it was really cold. So I did not have a very good experience, and my face was like turning blue by the time I came up. Um, and actually, for these, we want to leave. We're taking videos of these nests, and we definitely don't. We want to disturb them as little as possible. Okay, and so we're not doing that stream circling. Plus, we actually need the video because, like I said, it is analyzed frame by frame by frame by frame in our behavioral studies. So we want to you know we have to get the video and we want to make it as natural as possible. I mean, obviously, we've sort of had some ideas about building like, I don't know, robo fish that, actually take pictures and things and, hide cameras in rocks and things, but there's other logistics associated with that. So, um, but yeah, we want to keep it as natural as possible. So for this kind of stuff, we're not doing, I mean, I'll snorkel in lakes and things like that. It's fantastic. It's great what you see in terms of the different habitats. If you go through some, emergent plants, or you have like gravel and you see nesting and things like that, it is incredible. I recommend that, people do that for sure.
Roger, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Do you do work with other fish or only river chubs?
So, uh, I would say that fish communities are part of what I do.
Right.
So in other projects that I've done, like with stormwater and things, like collaborating with engineers, I'm more looking at a fish community.
Okay.
So, even though I'm not focusing as much as I am on river chub, these different elements of the community are often things that I get into the study of. I've done electrofishing on some of my projects. Um, so I mean, but in a broader sense, I'm not focusing on anything as much as I am river chub.
Okay.
Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I need to focus on something else. And after 10 years, maybe that's a good idea. I don't know, but we still have interesting things, interesting questions
Right.
that
I
might be
was
fun to look at.
just wondering because one of my friends, well, friends, acquaintances, he did an AFS presentation somewhat recently,
Mhm.
about the introduced rainbow and green side darters in the Potomac drainage and how it affected
Hmm,
tessellated and fantail populations. I don't know if you
interesting.
heard of that presentation or not, but
I'm not aware of that problem. I mean, like AFS conferences are huge.
yeah,
I
that
haven't been to one since I haven't been to a national one since 2021. I usually go to the Pennsylvania one every year, but they're great to go to, but they're absolutely huge. So like I mean like when I go, it's like there's just like 8 concurrent sessions, and so
Mhm.
I have to really, pick which sessions I go to, so I don't see everything.
Right.
Um but it sounds interesting. I mean, actually, we're actually for the regional meeting, it was in Wheeling, Ohio, Wheeling, West Virginia, which is in the Ohio drainage. So
Right.
a lot of the presentations were about, darters and things like that, and we did an ID
I'm
workshop
sure
and
you've
stuff.
heard, maybe you've heard of Cameron Lane. He does work on Crystalloria.
Oh, maybe that does sound a little familiar.
Yeah. Um, I'm hoping to go see Sincata soon-ish next year, probably for the
I'm embarrassed to say, I think I may have seen a presentation, but I just don't remember. It was interesting. That's the real rare one, right?
yeah, the
Yeah.
darter, crystal darter.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah, I
cool.
think I saw a presentation at the regional meeting on that last year.
Awesome. Because it was West Virginia, so
My memory's not so good anymore, so
all good.
it's not as good as it used to be.
All right, does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Kemp tonight? Because we're gonna have you back to do some more. And no more questions. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise and your time with us tonight.
Thank
And
you.
thank
Thanks
you
for
all
inviting
for
me.
joining. Remember, next week is Susan Gross with chironomids. I know I'm saying it wrong, but the non-biting midges. So we're still in the stream, and come back and we'll learn some more together. So
Wait,
stay well.
who's presenting about the midges?
I think it's Dr. Susan Gress.
Okay, cool.
So we'll see y'all all next week. Take care. Stay curious, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thanks.
That was
Been a great audience, everybody.
that was a great presentation. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.